Ahoy, my friends, Ryder here, and welcome back to another Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis video. Today is another to pull or not to pull video, and the banner featured is in fact Zack's new banner. He is accompanied by Matt on this banner, and it is definitely an interesting one. I think a lot of us were expecting more Rebirth crossover banners here. And I think that I speak for probably everyone when I say we're all a little bit disappointed that there has only been one so far, and potentially even only one for the entire crossover event, although I still have hopes that there will be one last crossover banner on the 29th. However, during the Final Fantasy IX crossover event, they did list out how many banners there were going to be at the very beginning and on which dates they were dropping. That did not happen this time, and so there is a good chance that the Tifa banner was the only crossover banner that we are going to get. However, I still have hopes that there will be some type of maybe Cloud, Sephiroth, Barret, maybe even a Red 13 banner with his weapon on it for his new costume that will drop the 29th. However, in the meantime, we did get this new banner, and it's pretty damn cool. This is a costume and sword combo that was seen all the way back in Ever Crisis beta, and for me, I've been waiting for this costume to come out for a while now. I did not expect it to come out during this Rebirth crossover event, not gonna lie. But yeah, that being said, let's get into the to pull or not to pull video. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually look at this costume because it looks pretty sick. I don't know about you guys, but in like all kind of MMO games, action RPGs, I tend to always play a paladin type character. So this kind of costume right here is pretty appealing to me. The blue, like the navy blue on the gold. He's got like the swaying pendant right there on his jacket, and then just like I love the kind of tasseled half cloak that comes down from the jacket. We've got the armor on the left side right there, which looks pretty sick, and on the right side actually as well. He's got the dark boots right here, and then if we kind of like fade back, we can see this freaking monster of a sword, and I love the gold. I love the inlays going all the way up here in the middle. It kind of like glimmers in the light, right? It has like the nice silver edge on it, and the whole thing just looks amazing. As I was saying in my patch updates video, like this looks like what I would think a shard blade would look like from the Stormlight Archive. So pretty freaking awesome sword, and the costume looks really cool as well. For me, I only have Zack's. I have the summer costume for Zack, and then I had the Halloween costume. I didn't get the one that came with Twinkling Star. Although, if you do have that costume, this weapon is going to just fit perfectly with it. They're like two halves of the same whole. So if you're a Zack fan and you pulled on that Twinkling Star banner for that costume, like, Merry Christmas. Here's what you've been waiting for to use with that costume, right? All right, so let's go in here. We'll look at the costume itself. So we have boost HP, pretty standard, but also I love HP on a costume. You don't have to worry about it in the sub-weapons because sometimes, you want magic attack, but there's no magic attack / HP sub-weapon as of right now. So it can be hard to find HP without getting it, but then getting something else that you might not want. So to have it in the costume right off the bat, 10 out of 10 for me. However, the buff debuff extension I think is something that no one was really expecting. This weapon on this banner is a non-elemental physical like king sword. This thing is going to do so much damage, and it comes with a buff debuff extension costume. So a little bit strange. This is the third one of these in the game. So we have Yuffie's, then Aerith got one, and now Zack has one. So when I go through Zack's other weapons, I'm going to show you exactly what this is going to affect for him. There are a few, I think there's about 3, where this costume is going to enhance his ability to either buff or debuff something. With 10 points, you're going to get a buff debuff effect duration of 40%, and we're going to go into this sword because it does have an effect where when you cast the ability, it increases his physical attack. And I will say that it does go mid to high at base 5-star, which is... Thank you, Applebot. All right, now, how long does that physical attack buff last? I haven't checked yet. Is it going to be... Is this costume going to be something you're going to have to wear to run this sword? I'm going to go through all that stuff today in this video. So, that being said, let's go over and check it out. So we're going to go over to this sword right here. Now, let's look for the time period, right? Physical attack is increased, potency mid, range self 25 seconds. All right, so essentially, like, for a DPS character, right? If you're running like a main DPS character, they're essentially just chain casting their own abilities over and over and over, right? So like, let's say we run like a Fire God Cloud setup, right? And he's running Sky Splitter. Cloud is essentially just using Blazing Strike the entire fight, right? So everyone's been doing the new Rebirth event. If you're running Cloud, when is he really ever doing anything other than Blazing Strike? Sometimes, if I'm running out of time and I want to hit down the Trine, I might use a Fire Blow, just because it has lower ATB cost. But essentially, you're just going to be spamming the main technique, which means that this physical attack is essentially always going to be up on Zack. I mean, at base 5-star, if it lasts 25 seconds, plus when you recast it on the next strike, it's going to extend it 5 seconds. It's going to be up for a while, right? So now let's look at this at OB6. The duration is going to go to 30 seconds, so it doesn't jump up too much, but still, 30 seconds is a long time, right? Like, we have very short buffs like Mithril Rod, which AoE boosts your physical defense, magic defense, but that only lasts 12 seconds, right? And I think as you get it higher, it's up to 14, so that's not very fast. This is going to be twice that right off the bat, so that is looking good. If this was something like 12 seconds, and it would be forcing you to use that costume to enhance his buff debuff duration, I would be a little bit disappointed. But with this looks super solid. All right, now let's go and look at this at OB10, right? Actually, let's go back. Base level 90, base 5-star, deals 700% physical non-elemental damage. Keep in mind, OB10 Murasame deals 750% damage. However, that is weakness damage against lightning weak creatures. But still, 700% at base 5-star is the strongest base level weapon we have in the entire game as of right now. We have a crit rate of 10%. Now let's go, we'll go to OB6. It's going to go up to 1,220% physical non-elemental damage. Absolutely insane. And the physical attack is going to go from mid to high to high to high. So this is going to immediately hit high tier at OB6. It's going to last 30 seconds long, and it's going to hit like a freaking train. This thing is going to hit so damn hard. All right, now let's check this thing out at OB10. At max level, right, for all you whales out there that are going to be maxing this soon, because I think for all us mortals, it's going to take a little bit longer. However, the silver lining on this weapon is that it is not limitable, right? Now I'm going to do a comparison to this and Tifa's banner later on in the video. But the biggest difference between the two, apart from the little technical differences and what they both have already in their kit, is the fact that one of them is limited and the other is not, right? And the fact that this is not limited means it's going to be much easier to level this weapon up as opposed to the guide gloves. Now, I know a lot of people are just going full in on the guide gloves. In that case, if you have gone all in on Tifa, there's really no need to go after this weapon. This is going to be a weapon for someone who did not pull for Zidane's sword, or even if you did pull for Zidane's sword at Amaranth's claws, if you're one of those people that, couldn't get it past OB 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it's just really not quite holding up in the damage because you didn't get it to OB6, and those character-specific weapon type parts are so rare, then this is going to be the banner for you, right? If you decided you didn't want to pull on the guide gloves, you're holding off, like let's say you only have, enough to go through one stamp card of the guide gloves, right? And you're only going to be able to get it to, let's say, if you're lucky, OB2. Then, although there's a lot of reasons why Tifa's setup and her kit going into that is probably going to make her still the stronger non-elemental damage dealer. Like, she's still the goddess, right? But unless you can get those to like OB6, this weapon is going to be much easier to build in the long run and have it be a lot more viable, because, you know, once you get these weapons, these non-elemental weapons to OB6, they really start to take it up a notch, and that's where it's really going to help in those harder dungeons. For example, the very hard Grostia path, where you're fighting the Astral Iron Giant right at the beginning. You know, it calls for strong non-elemental weapons, right? So this is the strength of this banner. It's non-limited, it's great, the costume is interesting, it has multi like viability, you can use it in different circumstances, and if you happen to pull for the Twinkling Star sword banner a while back, like I was saying, I mean, you're already set up for it. Now, let's look at the R abilities, right? At OB10, we're going to get physical attack 40, physical ability potency 36. So if we look at 36 points right here, that's going to be 60% attack stance command gauge max physical ability damage plus 60%, which, just so you guys know, this is the same ability that is on the guide gloves. However, Tifa's at OB10 is going to be 48. Right? So if we look here, 48, Tifa's going to have 10% more, right? And that's not actually including her costume. Actually, I think both their costumes, oh, no. Tifa's costume is going to increase it by 10 points even more. So she's going to be at 80%, where Zack is at 60%. Now, he is going to get more physical attack than her. His physical attack is going to be boosted to 40 in the main hand, where I believe Tifa is only going to be at 27. Let's go over here. We'll check out Tifa's gloves right here. All right, I'm just going to go to OB10. So yeah, her physical attack is going to be at 27, so 13 points lower, right? So if we go to 27, she's getting physical attack plus 100 and 20% boosted physical attack. However, Zack is going to be getting physical attack plus 100, 30% physical attack. He's pretty damn close to 40, but I'm not going to lie, guys, it's not very hard to max your physical attack, so I'm not too worried about that. I do think the superior stat here is the physical ability potency. So there's a lot of mathematics you can do on this to really configure between the two, right? But let's be real, this is a crossover limited weapon with a costume that perfectly matches it on Tifa, and Zack just doesn't have as much in the back of his kit as Tifa does to support this kind of stuff. She already has Amaranth's claws, she already has Amaranth's costume. You combine the two, she becomes this insane non-elemental DPS goddess, right? That's for people who have all those things, and not everyone has that, right? So if we go back to Zack, this is where Zack is going to come in. Now, I do want to make a couple notes here, and I am going to get to Matt's weapon here. But the first thing that I want to point out is that if you look at the name here of the sword, right? So we go to the sword, it says Ceremonial Sword Z, right? Z stands for Zack. I was wondering what that really stood for. And the reason they put this is because when there are weapons that both Cloud and Zack are going to get, right? Like the same weapon of each, they put a Z on Zack's to kind of signify that it's his weapon. Now, I'm going to show you guys what I mean, right? I'm going to go to Enhance. Okay, I'm going to go to Weapons. I'm going to go to Filter, Character Sets. We're going to go to Cloud and Zack, right? Let's filter it. Okay, so Zack's right here at the top, right? So let's look at his weapon. So if we look at the Arc Sword, right? You see no Z, and that's because Cloud does not have this sword, nor does Cloud seem to be getting it in the future. However, if we go to the Enhanced Sword, we'll see that there's a Z here, right? Because not only does Zack have an Enhanced Sword, but so does Cloud, right? He also has an Enhanced Sword. Now, let's look at the abilities on them. Now, these abilities can change, right? It's because Zack's is a Healing Vortex ability. However, Cloud's is a AoE Blizzaga. So the only thing I can say is, and I think that these weapons are not exactly the same in how they look. I mean, they're very similar. They're very similar. They have a slightly different color skin on them. And also, apart from the Enhanced Sword Z, there is also the crystal sword, right? And both Cloud and Zack have a crystal sword, which leads me to believe that and I'll show you guys right here, here's Cloud's crystal sword, and they also both have different abilities, right? One is a healing and one is an AoE attack on Zack, which leads me to believe that Cloud is going to be getting his own version of this weapon in the future. Now, is it going to be this type of command ability? We don't know. Based on what we've seen before, it seems unlikely. However, Cloud is going to be getting this kind of skin for a sword in the future. So I'm not saying, I was going to say, hey, maybe you should wait if you want this kind of sword on Cloud. But then after checking those differences between the two swords in their kits, I think it's likely that Cloud's command ability will actually be different. So if you want something for Zack, this is going to be a great opportunity to do it. Now let's go back to OB10 here, where this thing has an insane 1400% physical non-elemental damage. Its physical attack goes to 35 seconds. And let's look at the support materia. So it has a circle sigil boost. I love weapons that have sigil boosts on it. They make sigil breaks that much easier. You free up a materia slot on a different character because you don't have to run sigils on all three characters when one character has a sigil breaker. If one character has a sigil breaker, they can 90% of the time break all the sigils on the enemy stance completely on their own, which is amazing and a great boon in a fight. Now, the other two materia slots are going to be physical ability damage plus 20%, physical ability damage plus 20%. So both really good. Honestly, the sword is better than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be strong. We weren't sure what the R abilities were going to be. If they had put buff, debuff, duration in there, I would have thought, well, they're kind of pulling back on it. I was curious about how long the duration on the physical attack buff was going to last, but it's great. You know, on Amarant's Claws, you know, and I'll show you guys, I have the Amarant's Claws at OB9, I believe, okay? You know, at OB9, this thing gives physical attack high, right? But it only does 630% physical non-elemental damage. So that was the drawback of these, right? Now, if we get it to OB10, it's going to do only 720%. So it's not even that much. It's going to get 90% stronger, right, at OB10. So, but 720% is only 20% stronger than what this weapon is, Zack's weapon, literally at base 5-star. So it's an insane weapon. I mean, it's close to on par with other limited weapons in different ways. Now, it is slower, and I want to wait here because I want to see the animation of it and try to guess how slow it is. So 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. Okay, so it's not super fast, but it does have a long waiting charge on it. It is 5 ATB. You got to keep that in mind at the end of the day. However, haste is in the data mine, which means we are going to be getting haste at some point in time in the future. And when we do get haste, this thing is going to be absolutely insane. Like, it's going to be insane. I mean, everything's going to be insane when you're hasted, right? But just imagine this thing, because this thing is going to hit so damn hard. Like, I'm so curious to test this thing out. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to pull on this. I'm still on the line. I'm curious about the Rebirth banner, but I'll have to see how much crystals I have in my gift box. I'm pretty sure I'll break 100k. If I break 100k, then I think I'm going to pull for it. All right. So that being said, at the end of the day, you know, if you're choosing between Tifa and Zack, they're both going to be great. If you have enough crystals to OB6 Tifa's weapon, or at least OB5 it, then I think Tifa is going to probably do you better in the long term. However, if you don't have enough crystals saved up to OB5 or OB4 at the bare minimum on her guide gloves, which means probably 2 stamp cards, if not more, right? Then Zack is definitely going to be the way to go. However, if you already have a strong non-elemental weapon, right? And there's lots of different options, right? You could have the Apocalypse from Cloud, you could have Zidane's sword from the Final Fantasy IX crossover, Amarant's Claws. There's lots of non-elemental weapons in the game. If you have a non-elemental weapon that's already OB6, or even a couple of them, there's no real reason to necessarily have to pull. This banner is by no means a must pull. It's not. There are very, very, very few banners in this game that I would say are absolutely necessary to pull. and this is not one of them. However, I'm a huge fan of Zack. I think he's awesome, and I just think this entire banner is freaking awesome. Now, I'm going to go into this wish list right here, and I'm going to go to Zack. I'm going to show you some of the weapons that having this costume is going to help with. The first is Twinkling Star, right? I'm just going to show you guys OB10 just for ease. This weapon is going to decrease magic attack while also decreasing physical defense. So this is going to raise the buff duration from his costume on this weapon, making it a lot more potent than it is right now, right? So not only is his costume going to help for his current weapon, but it's also going to help for a lot of his other weapons, which can make Zack a suitable debuffer, right? So if you need someone to be buffing magic attack or reducing physical defense, or decreasing magic attack and decreasing physical defense, that's going to help there. We also have Black Whiskers, right? Zack is the only Water Imperil character in the entire game right now, and that's going to help him also decrease physical defense and do a Water Imperil on that enemy and have it last even longer, right? Other than Black Whiskers, we also have, let's see right here, we have another one. Unfortunately, all three of those weapons all reduced physical defense, so you really only need one of them. Twinkling Star is a definitely interesting one, but I think if you have Black Whiskers and Twinkling Star, it's really going to serve you well. Now, that being said, let's go over and let's look at Matt, all right? So let's look at Matt's weapon right here. Okay, so this is the Centipede, and at level 90 base 5-star, its magic heal is cast. It's going to have a 42% potency. It says 42% of healing potency, right? Now, before I get into this, here is the question with Matt. Now, I want you to pay attention when he brings up his sword right here and the information that's on it right here. It says, increase all allies' physical defense and restores up to 59% of their healing potential, right? I know it's going too fast. Restores up to 59% of their healing potential. So does that mean that this weapon heals based off the healing stat on the characters you're healing? If it does, it's going to be significantly a lower amount of heal than if it's based on Matt's potency. Now, when Tifa's Lifeguard wraps came out, and I'm going to show you guys this weapon, right? Where are they? They're right here. When Tifa's Lifeguard wraps came out, it said the same thing and was later patched to change to have it not say that. So the question is this weapon going to also get patched so that it's healing based on his healing potency, right? Because if we look at this, it says magic heal is cast 49% of healing potency, range all allies. And if we go back to Matt's weapon right here, right? It's on the third page, okay? It more or less says the same. Magic heal is cast 42% of healing potency. So is this a typo in the game? If we pull on this banner and we realize it and complain, do we get crystals back like we did a long time ago on that very first Sephiroth banner? I don't know, but it doesn't make sense that it heals based on the healing potency of other characters. Now, other than that, for the R abilities of this sword, which is really cool because essentially Barrett has been the only character in the game that can AoE buff physical defense. Now Matt is another one, and not only can he AoE buff physical defense, he can also AoE heal the entire team at the same time. Two birds with one stone. Now, at base 5-star, it only goes to mid on the physical defense. However, if you get it to OB6, it will hit high on the second cast, which is fantastic, meaning he can take it to high. However, the assault gun is still going to be better, probably for things like the level 70 floor of the Cetra Tower, just because it will always hit high on that first cast, whereas this will always need 2. However, because even at OB10, this thing is going to still go mid before high. But it is a very, very good weapon. And, you know, if you were to pull a copy of this, right, just one copy while pulling for Zack's weapon, I think it's really going to do Matt a lot of good, especially if it does heal off his own healing potency. And even if it doesn't, the AoE heal is just a bonus at that point, right? Now the R abilities are going to boost healing, which it makes more sense now that that's a typo because it's boosting his own healing, right? But then healing off of their potency, it doesn't make sense, right? And then we're also going to get the buff debuff extension here. So his physical AoE defense buff is going to last longer inherently. And it's nice to be getting more of these weapons with this so that we can really start to flesh out our buffing slash debuffing characters. His support materia is going to be magic ability damage plus 20% in the first 2 slots and healing ability potency in the last slot. So you can plug in a Cura there for some strong single target healing. All in all, it is, I think, a great weapon. I'm curious to see what happens with whether it's his healing potency or the team's healing potency, but either way, we have a very interesting banner here and one that I'm about 99% sure that I will be pulling on. So I don't want to have this video go too long. If you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to talk with you guys in the comments below. If you liked this video, drop a like, sub to the channel for future content. And I just want to say, I just recently released 2 days ago a interview that I did with Comic-Con Radio. For those of you that don't know, I've been an author for 13 years. I've published 10 novels. I've done book signings at Comic-Con, Anime Expo, Salt Lake City Fan X, Los Angeles Comic-Con, all around the world. I've been an international best-selling author. We have manga adaptations of our work, and I have a new book publishing on February 29th, Fade to Black, The Curseborn Saga Book 1. It is a 3rd edition remaster. For those of you that are interested in getting to know me better, why they call me the World Adventurer, that interview with Comic-Con Radio is really fun. I talk about running with the bulls, backpacking Europe, climbing cliffs up to 1,000 feet. I lived with the monks in Nepal. So all kinds of super fun stuff around the world. I'm currently living in Nicaragua right now with my wife, having a blast, working on these YouTube videos, working on a bunch of different books at the same time. So if you guys want to hear a really cool interview, there should be a video popping up for you guys to check out in this little corner somewhere over here. That being said, I hope you'll have a wonderful night. Take care and peace.